back here at Song of the Day, coming to you from the Rock Cave. I'm your host, Mark Pierce. It is Sunday, and you all know what that means. It is Slowdown Sunday. We are foregoing the fireside today. It's a little warm for a fire. We'll see. Don't worry. Don't freak out, people. Still Slowdown Sunday. Today's a big anniversary in rock and roll. And we got a lot of directions we can go with this. We're going to try to keep it in a certain number of minutes here so that we don't go on for too long. So I promise I'll try that. But we are talking the 55th anniversary of really what is being called one of the best records of all time, the most influential records of all time, a masterpiece. And yet, so many people have never heard this record before. We're talking about the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds 55th anniversary today, 1966 released. All right, there's a lot we can dig into here. Let's try it. Let's try to give you the Cliff Notes version here just a little bit. So, Beach Boys, obviously huge, and in basically the early 60s especially, singing about beaches, hot rods, surfing, girls. That's where they got all of their fame, right? And were they ever able to really escape that fame? Not really. I mean, you think of the Beach Boys, you think of all of those songs. For me personally, I mean, I love all those songs. But it was also kind of hard to take them seriously with that music. So, by the time 1966 comes around, they just gave up on the beach theme. They basically, 1965 said, this is it. We're not doing that anymore. We're moving in a different direction. We're not going to do that teenage stuff anymore. Okay. 1966, by this 1965, Brian Wilson says, you know what? I'm not touring with you guys anymore. I'm not going to sing with you guys. You guys can go do your thing. We're still a band, but I'm going to stay home and I'm going to just start recording and writing and doing my own thing. So that's what they did. The Beach Boys did a tour of Asia and Hawaii while he stayed in and started writing this record. He wrote this record. He brought in a lyricist with him to kind of help him out, Tom Asher. But he basically he worked for months and months on a single song. But yes, he basically sat and recorded this, and it was being talked about as a solo album for him. And we'll get to that in a second. But basically, he started adding things that had never been done in rock records ever before. He was adding instruments like the harpsichord. He was doing layers and layers of vocals. He had sound effects for like tin cans, bicycle bells, all kinds of stuff in there. I mean, he was using all kinds of jazz, folk, slow rock. I mean, they gave all kinds of names for the music that's on this record. Choir rock, choir pop. There are no electric guitars on here. And he basically wrote every single note. Now, he also was having a little issue with LSD, marijuana, and mental illness. So that's what this is famous for. As he's going through all this, the recording sessions are famous for what that might be like. Let's just say that. Is it a concept album? Is it, there's not any real standalone singles, even though they released them. They're all related to each other. And it's a pretty mellow record. I mean, the fastest of the songs are still pretty mellow for them. Like I said, they've got like just all kinds of music on here, and then you have to read through all this information and be like, wait, how did this, first it was a Brian Wilson record, how did it become a Beach Boys record? I don't understand this. The first single, Caroline No, was released as a Brian Wilson solo track, but then the band comes back and they get in the studio, and they take a back seat in many ways to the Wrecking Crew. If you've watched any documentaries lately, the Wrecking Crew were a very elite professional session musicians who were famous as being Phil Spector's backup band, and they did a lot of the work here. But the band's contribution is there. They provided those awesome harmonies. They actually wrote a couple of the songs, some lead vocals on there from the rest of the band. So they're definitely there. So they come in, but this is very intricate work. They can't be played live, basically, they say. Like, it's just can't be recreated live at all. So they get through this session. They bring it to the label. The label doesn't know what to do with it. The label had just the year before released Barbara Ann without telling the band. There was a little bit of conflict there. The label didn't really know what to do with this stuff. When they did release it, they, rather than pushing it as a new record, they did like comedy sketches just to say that they were out there, just going on their name. The label put out a greatest hits like 2 months later, and that sold like millions and millions of copies, so it was a little bit of a distraction. So a bit of a commercial disappointment. Went to number 10, mixed reviews. Some people said it was the most brilliant album ever, and some people were just kind of like didn't really get it. So it was all over the place. This record was mixed in mono, not stereo. Stereo was not the standard at the time, and this is a big part of the story of this record. So mono was standard, and Brian Wilson is deaf, 98% in his right ear, and he can't hear stereo. So over the years, people said they wanted a stereo mix of this, and that was a big point of controversy. This thing has been re-released so many times. I mean, something like 6 re-releases since 1990. They redo the mono mix from the masters. They put out a stereo version that wasn't so good. Then they try to do another stereo version, and then they put out a box set with extra tracks. And then the purists say, why did you put it out on stereo? It was never meant to be in stereo, and it sounds terrible. It should only be in mono. This is an actual conversation. Just Google Pet Sounds, mono versus stereo, and you can just spend an afternoon reading about it. But basically, this whole record, if you listen to the whole thing, it is very mellow. It's something you can listen to on Slowdown Sunday. Bands like, and artists like David Bowie, Queen, R.E.M., Radiohead, Weezer, they all say this record was influential to them. And yes, in retrospect, it is listed as one of the most important, best albums of all time, the Citizen Kane of records. Now think about Citizen Kane. Everyone says they know that that's one of the best movies of all time. How many of you have actually seen Citizen Kane? I mean, maybe you all have. I have many times, but I'm just saying I don't know that a lot of people have seen Citizen Kane overall. And when you do watch it, sometimes you're like, wait, why is this the most important film of all time? So how many people have Pet Sounds, the CD, in their collection? I've never owned Pet Sounds. I mean, I've listened to the album a lot, but I don't think I've ever owned it. Anyway, songs. Caroline No was the first single. You got 2 other singles here. You got Sloop John B and Wouldn't It Be Nice. Those are awesome songs. You can check out some of the other songs on there. You Still Believe in Me, Don't Talk. These are, you just need to check out this whole record. Those are ones that are a little more mellow. For me, song of the day, we're at 8 minutes, sorry folks, is Sloop John B, because that's the very first 45 I ever bought, used at an antique store. I remember it. I went through there, kind of found it. I wasn't looking for it. Frankly, it was because I liked the label. Brought it home, listened to it, and I just fell in love with Sloop John B, and I just couldn't stop playing that song. And to this day, I love Sloop John B. That's a great song. So that's your song of the day. But check out Pet Sounds today. I could have said so much more about this record. There's documentaries. There's all kinds of things that you can talk about with this record, but that's the gist of Pet Sounds. So enjoy your day. Be brave. Give it a listen. See what you think. And as usual, I'll catch you on the flip side.